All right, in this tutorial, I will be showing you how to take a raw recorded interview and edit it down to something that is cohesive and presentable. There are two aspects to this that I will be demonstrating. One is the process of editing the content, removing unwanted or irrelevant parts of the recording and leaving a cohesive dialogue that makes sense and is easy to listen to. The second is the technical tips and tricks to doing this most efficiently while also allowing maximum flexibility as you work. For this demonstration, I will use the full unedited test Zencastr recording between me and Professor Joan Wesman. So here we are in Adobe Audition, and I recognize many of you will be using some other piece of audio software like Hindenburg, maybe Pro Tools, maybe Audacity. The principles here are the same. However, I will be using the hotkeys and stuff that Audition has, and I'll be talking about those. But the principles of breaking audio into sections, grouping audio, are principles that you can use in any DAW, digital audio workstation, and you just need to figure out how to do those things in your digital audio workstation. So take that for what it is, and let's go ahead and do this in Adobe Audition. Here are my two pieces of audio. I am in the multi-track side of Adobe Audition. I'm doing that because that is the side that is similar to Pro Tools or other DAWs in that it allows you to edit things non-destructively. So if you delete parts and all that, when you can drag the audio back out and it comes right back. It's not gone. Everything is flexible and changeable. So I'm going to do all that work here. So I'm going to take, first thing I'm going to do, actually, I got two audio files here. One is the other person and one is me in the interview. So I'm going to drag both of them down here onto tracks 4 and 5. So there's myself, Darren Pierce, and here's the other audio file also, and that is Professor Joan Wesman down there. I'm going to put those down there and mute them. All right. So that way, as I go along editing, the original source is down here. And if I cut some stuff out and then later I'm like, oh, what was it we said there? Without me having to drag back out the audio up here and the thing I'm working on, I can just go down here and listen to it real quick and go, oh yeah, that's worth actually going back reconsidering, or no, it's not. So I'm going to keep that. It also kind of can give me a gauge about how much stuff I've taken out, because I can then compare the. Of course, I've got a timeline and all that, but I can quickly visually see like, oh yeah, I've taken out a big chunk. It also kind of helps to prevent mistakes. Like if I accidentally take out a big piece, I'll see it because I'll see the original down here and go, whoops, that wasn't what I meant to do. And anyway, it's just for me, it's very handy to be able to reference the original audio. So I'm going to leave it muted at the bottom of the session, and I'm going to leave a track gap in between for visual purposes. So now we're going to put my audio there and my her audio here, and I'm going to start editing. I'm going to widen these out like this because I can do that. And now we're ready to go. So we're going to start at the beginning and simply here's show all. Yeah, so it's about 10.5-minute recording. Let's play from the beginning. Hey, good evening, and welcome to our podcast, Joan Wesman, Professor Joan Wesman. Thank you so much for joining me. This, of course, is just a test, so we won't talk about anything serious or real. That being said, this is Thursday, February 25th, about 4:26 p.m. in the year 2021. In case this is watched like a decade from now, we're like, oh my gosh, look at the technology back then. So yeah, you've got an iPhone there. All right, so right there, things get weird. Her phone rings, and then I feel like I need to comment about that, and then I'm already off track. So I just need to clean that up. So I said something here I thought I'd like to have. And again, I don't want to edit this into something completely contrived. I want to edit this so that it sounds natural and listenable. So I don't need to take out ums and ands and stuff like that. That's not the intent here. It's to just edit it so that you end up with the appropriate, usable, presentable content. I think that's the best way of putting it. So let's listen here. This is Thursday, February 25th, about 4:26 p.m. in the year 2021. In case this is watched like a decade from now, we're like, oh my gosh, look at the technology back then. So I'm actually going to leave all that. The phone rings in the background. It's okay, but I'm making a statement while the phone's ringing. That is, I'm saying the date and time because in case some people listen to this in the future and we look back and go, wow, yeah, she was using an iPhone then. And it's kind of funny that the phone rang because that's like a time capsule, like a date stamp. So I actually think that's cool and it's authentic. So I'm going to leave that. But after that, big space. So I'm going to cut from there. The technology back then. There's a breath. I'll leave the breath. That's appropriate. I need to zoom in a little bit to do this. So I'm just gonna cut here. Now all I'm gonna do is put a break. The hotkey for a break point in the audio is Command K. Before I do that, you'll note that I've got two separate tracks. I want to leave them as two separate tracks so that I can clean up things or on the track that's not talking. If there's background noise, I can silence it and things like that. So I need to be able to edit these together as one track. In Adobe Audition, to do that, I need to select them both by holding one and then holding Command and selecting the other. And then I use the hotkey Command G for group. They now change the same color, and now they are linked as a group. So anything I do in one will happen in the other. So I'm going to go ahead and yeah, that's my spot. Now Command K to break that. So now I have a breakpoint for both tracks. I'm just going to leave it. I'm not going to delete anything yet. You can see this little icon here means that all these regions are grouped. So even though I made a breakpoint there, everything is still considered one group. So it will act like, for instance, if I were to trim here, see they all act together. We'll do undo. All right, let's go on. So yeah, you've got an iPhone there.
Sorry.
No,
yeah.
That's great.
Sorry. No, just keep going.
No problem. And see, I can edit this later. Well, I was just about to ask how your day was. That was the point of which I was about to ask you how your day was, and I didn't want to do that while you were responding to a text.
Right.
So on this day, how was your day today? What kind of things?
Let's see. How was my day? Well,
all right, perfect. So she says, I got to get back there. She says, she starts answering my question, which is all I wanted, right? So there's the answer. What kind of things?
Let's see. How was my?
And she's got a big lip smack right there. What kind of things?
Let's see.
I could take that out, and I think I actually will take that out. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to do a special trick here. Watch. This is an Adobe Audition trick. I could delete that right there, but it would leave a space, and I have to ungroup the two to do it. Otherwise, it would delete this section here. I'm going to double-click this and open it in the editing, in the waveform editing side of Audition, and use a special thing. There's that spot right there. I'm going to take out that lip smack by going here and instantiating silence, which I think is, I've got a hotkey for it. I won't teach that right now, but I've set up a hotkey that is the key H. When I hit that, it writes silence. In Adobe Audition, you can't see it in the screen capture. It is actually under the clip or edit drop-down window. You can select an area, select silence, and it'll create silence there. So I've taken that out without actually taking out any time or waveform in the editing file.
Let's see. How was my day?
So that's kind of nice. And let's see, what was this?
Well,
yeah. So now I'm going to go back to the multi-track side and check it out. That's gone, but nothing else has changed. Pretty slick way to edit stuff. So, and this is why I leave the tracks as separate tracks while I'm doing this editing, so that I can clean up artifacts like that. It's a really, really convenient and efficient way to handle it. So let's go back to the question here.
Right.
So on this day, how was your day today? All right. So there's my question. I've got this.
Right.
So on this day, so I don't want that's so on this day, but I've got no choice. I got to have this so on this day, and she's underneath. So I could take out the well underneath, and actually, I think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to open this up, and this is useful. I'm going to go all the way back here. Listen.
Right. Well.
Yeah. So I'm going to H silence that. Let's listen to this. I don't think I need any of this. Right. Nope. All right. So now I've got it gone. Now I can decide where I want to start my question. So on this day, well, let's go back real quick. Let's zoom out for 2 seconds and listen to where I left off. Oh my gosh, look at the technology back then. So on this day, I'm going to go here. They're still grouped. I'm just going to go here. I'm not going to worry about how clean it is. Now we're going to go on. How was your day today? What kind of things?
Let's see. How was my day? Well, actually, I had a really, really interesting class.
That was her phone dinging in the background, but
Mark Sappenfield, who's the editor of the Christian Science Monitor, and Monitor Night Live is tonight. I don't know if you're involved in.
Not at all, but I will be tuning in.
Well, I've asked my classes to tune in, but with Apple Pay for individual articles. And Mark was kind of tearing his hair out because he was like, yes, he's just so honest about.
So there's some anomalies in my track right there. I'll just double click that and just get rid of those. Highlight, H silence, back to the multi-track. We'll just keep going. I don't need any of that stuff.
Off. But he's just so honest about, I mean, they asked him about, bias and, the model and just a lot of things. And he interested what the students think.
That's really cool. That's fun that I get this opportunity to hear you tell me about that, because I don't pay attention to any of those types of things. I was on Christian's show on Tuesday or whenever it was, and then I'm going to join him tomorrow for his whole show. And I'm so clueless, but then I just start talking about stuff. So knowing like the background about, because one of the things we talked about was the Washington Post, about how that was the specific reference that Christian Blaney had regarding being able to buy specific articles. And I said, you should just email somebody there.
Right.
And
that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. And I real quick, going to take this out. Back to the session. Somebody there.
Right.
And
that's great.
Yeah. And he goes, well, I'll do it after we talked for a bit. He says, I'll do it after this. And I go, well, you could have done it already. You just it's like that easy. It's like effortless. You should always ask, even if nobody responds. And so then he texted me today. He said, I asked about the monitor, and I didn't realize he was talking about Christian Science monitor. And now check it out. That's a ding on her part. I can get rid of all of that. Boop. And I don't know if there'll be any in my track. And so then he texted me today. He said, I asked about the monitor, and I didn't realize he was talking about Christian Science monitor and Mark Sappenfield. So now I've got all this context. So this is useful. So.
Well, the funny thing about that is he asked Mark Sappenfield, can I email someone about it? And Mark was like, we really already have it on our radar, so you don't need to. But I guess when you're talking to the editor of the publication that you're proposing something to, you've gone about as high as you can go. So
get rid of these noises.
So anyway.
Yeah. Well, I pointed that out, that these are the types of things that certainly the entities involved are working on, doing whatever they have to do to stay relevant and available, and their economics happening, because everything is moving away from we hesitate to use the word traditional platforms, but
well, they have to keep finding new models to keep things
real quick here. So while we're listening to this,
to keep finding new models to
this is something that anybody editing themselves might in experience. While I'm listening to myself talk up here, I'm self-conscious about that, going, I sound silly, I sound ignorant, I sound like I'm thinking while I'm talking. All those things may be true. But if I were to edit that down so it sounded more succinct, it would be inauthentic. That's not something I'm willing to do. What I need to do is become more skilled as an interviewer. But that's an entirely different thing. I'm not going to edit myself into being a better interviewer, and I don't recommend anybody do that. So I'm going to leave everything I said. What I'm listening for here is cohesiveness of content, and what we're talking about is still in alignment with what we started talking about. So it's appropriate, and I'm going to leave it. Now, if I needed to edit for time, I might take out the entire section altogether, like the entire thing about the Washington Post versus the Christian Science Monitor and Mark Sappenfield. I might just take the whole thing out because I can't have part of it and have it make sense. But I don't have to worry about time here. I'm editing for something to make something that is presentable. So let's go on platforms. But
well, they have to keep finding new models to keep things working. And I mean, this is the whole unit I'm trying to teach right now, which is really hard to grasp, which is, once news went online and they all get it off social media, what happens to the traditional news sources and how do they cope? And so at first everything was free. And then they were like, oh, well, we can't not make any money. And he basically, I wrote it down because I thought it was really interesting. He said, Google killed the news industry. That's a direct quote.
That's great. What's great is about that is Google killed everybody. I mean, that's exactly right. Google killed music. I mean, Google
Yep,
killed. I mean, I've
absolutely.
heard musicians all say the same thing. I hate book art. Well, interestingly, books seem
Amazon
to still.
killed. Amazon killed the
Yeah,
book industry. But basically,
yeah.
Amazon, Google, and Facebook have just turned. I mean, that's what I should call my course something much more interesting than Intro to Mass Comm. I should call it Google, Facebook, Amazon killed everything,
Yeah.
because that's basically
Well,
what I'm trying to say. So,
yeah. Well, it's a
anyway,
major trans. Yeah, I mean, if video killed the radio star in the early '80s, then
right.
we're talking about a complete major paradigm shift across the globe, across all existing platforms of anything regarding art, media, and anything, any
Yep.
creative content whatsoever. And so we are facing something that I don't think anybody knows where it's going to land. Everybody's just scrambling to keep up, and
So
then we'll
true.
just see what happens.
That's my entire
So
course in a nutshell. I
it's
guess if people
amazing.
listen to
Well,
this interview, they don't have to take Intro to Mass Comm, because that's it right
that's
there. But a lot of
I'm gonna.
people just haven't thought about
There's a. Whoops! I didn't mean to do that. There's a. I think we're here.
I
It's
guess if people
amazing.
listen to
Well,
this, it's my entire course in a nutshell.
so I'm making a bunch of noise in the background here. It's amazing. So all of that is me responding over the top of her unnecessarily, and with a digital interview thing here, it just causes interference, and it's it's a mess. I'm just gonna take it all out while I'm doing it. Right. Right. Well, I'll leave it. Again, I'm trying to be as authentic as possible. So let's listen to this, and
So
then we'll
true.
just see what happens.
That's my entire course in a nutshell. I guess if people listen to this interview, they don't have to take Intro to Mass Comm, because that's it right there. But a lot of people just haven't thought about it, and they haven't thought about, unless you're a superstar, how much money Spotify pays, which is like 0.000 of a penny per stream, and
Right.
so musicians have a harder time making a living. I mean, they have to do it by touring, and I mean, there's just everything's. Yeah, you're
Right.
right. The paradigm shift is a perfect way of
Well,
putting it.
real quick, and because I'm about to talk again. These are all worth silencing. Back.
Shift is a perfect way of putting it.
Yeah. Well, so I'll just make this one statement that I made 1,000 times regarding musicians, and maybe they hate it, but the music business was created by technology, and technology took the music business away. Music, and as an art form, has always been. Mozart didn't make any money. I mean, most musicians never made any money, or if they'd made any at all, it was by performing. That's what I mean. You got writers and you got performers, and just like
Right.
material artists, you got painters, and you got creative, and they sell their stuff. I mean, that's the music business is a technology based thing, and that's changed. That's separate. But so it's different. Yeah. Get that one real quick. So I asked a really long and convoluted question, but I'm going to leave it for the moment and see how the whole thing comes out. Maybe come back and take out a whole chunk of discussion rather than
Well,
So
I
there's a
mean,
massive discussion.
no, it's a great conversation, and you always get me going. And I'm not going to stay on a lot longer because I have to make a call here. But John Philip Sousa, the guy that wrote
Yeah,
all the music that people play when they're in high school marching bands, he
yeah,
was worried when recorded music started to become a thing in the early 20th century, or whenever that was, late 1900s, 1800s, because
let me tell you.
he was worried that once people could listen to professional musicians, amateurs wouldn't
Yeah.
create music anymore.
Wow. What did
That,
what did he even mean by what does he mean by worrying that amateurs wouldn't create music?
well,
Just that they'd stop,
they
or
would
they stop
stop
doing it?
playing the piano and singing and stuff because they would just listen to professionals doing it.
Yeah. I guess that's kind of true in a sense. I mean, in other words, playing piano in the home. All right, first of all, I want to get rid of all this stuff. All right, so that's gone. Let's get back here. Now, I got an issue here. I got to think about here. I've got an answer. I've got a question here. But the music business was created by TikTok. I've got this statement from me about the music business being created by and taken away by technology. I've got this cool answer from Joan.
I mean,
a massive discussion.
No, it's a great conversation, and you always get me going. And I'm not going to stay on a lot longer because I have to make a call here. But John Philip Sousa.
And then she says some conversational stuff, and then she says, "I have to go," and then she responds to my previous statement by saying, "Well, John Philip Sousa." So that's good. I'm going to see what happened here before here. And so we are facing something that I don't think anybody knows where it's going to land. Everybody's just scrambling to keep up, and
So
then we'll just see what happens.
That's my entire course in a nutshell. I guess if people listen to this interview, they don't have to take Intro to Mass Comm because that's it right there. But a lot of people just haven't thought about it, and they haven't thought about unless you're a superstar, how much money Spotify pays, which is like 0.000 of a penny per stream, and so musicians have a harder time making a living. I mean, they have to do it by touring, and I mean, there's just everything's, yeah, you're right. The paradigm shift is a perfect way of putting it.
Yeah, so I'll just make this one statement that I made 1,000 times regarding musicians, and maybe they hate it, but the music business. So I guess I don't have a choice. I would love to link up her, John Philip Sousa, and tag it on to the end of her previous statement here about paradigm shift, but it doesn't work so well without me making this statement about technology. So I got to leave all of this and move on. Wow. What did he even mean by? What does he mean by worrying that amateurs wouldn't create music?
Well, they would stop
playing
playing the piano and singing and stuff because they would just listen to professionals doing it.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of true in a sense. I mean, in other words, playing piano in the home, in the early 1900s, that was everybody played an instrument. The families got together and played an instrument, and that slowly went away as you could put on a record. Let me get all this out of here. Back. As you could put on a record. So that's true. And even now, I'm a musician. I studied music and I made a professional career out of it, but I'm not concerned about my kids doing it at all. They goof around on the piano and they play their instruments in band, but I am not concerned about them being educated musicians because unless that's their passion and what they're wired to do, there's no utility in it. It's just fun. And even professional musicians today, it's more about how to put together sounds than it is how to actually play or mastering the craft of playing an instrument. So I guess John Philip is correct.
Yeah. Well, I have to tell you, he called it the menace of mechanical music.
Wow, it's great.
Yep. He was alarmed with the rise of recorded music. It will be simply a question of time when the amateur disappears entirely. So, I mean, on the good side, that has not happened. I mean, it sort of has. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, because artists will never stop creating art. All right, so I'm going to take out that section right there.
I mean, it sort of has. Yeah.
Well, we talk on top of each other.
I mean, on the good side, that has not happened.
Yeah, so there's nothing wrong with me. I'm going to put a break point there and a break point coming back in. Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, because artists will, right there, right before she says, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, because artists will never stop creating art. And I'll get back to that edit later. All right, so there, and I realize I'm going to go back to.
Yeah, you're right. The paradigm shift.
Where she says I have to go. Massive discussion.
No, it's a great conversation, and you always get me going. And I'm not going to stay on a lot longer because I have to make a call here. But John Philip Sousa, the guy that wrote all the music that people, John Philip Sousa, John Philip Sousa.
Yeah, I mean, a massive discussion.
No, it's a great conversation, and you always get me going. And
I'm going to make a note here. I'm going to see this is a questionable move, but we're going to see. Because a massive discussion.
No, it's a great conversation, and you always get me going. And I'm not going to stay on a lot.
So you always get me going.
Always get me going.
Right about here. I'm going to put a break point there.
I'm not going to stay on a lot longer because I have to make a call here. But John Philip Sousa. I'm
going to put a break there. I'm going to get back to that. I want to see if I can just take out this bit about her saying I got to go. But we'll see about that. All right, let's move on. Which I think I'm here. Stop creating art. So amateur musicians, they're out there doing it for fun, but they're not. There's nobody worried about monetizing it. They just do it for fun.
Right.
And if they happen to be special or something, they might get noticed. But even then, So,
well, it's so hard for me. I actually have to make a phone call, Darren. I'm going to have to go, but we need to have our own, just have to have our own show here, because now, I think of like 10 more things I want to bring up, and we just need to be able to put all this out there.
Yeah.
So,
well, I only needed a couple minutes, so this is like 10 minutes. So this is way more than that.
Yeah.
So
my hope would be that you would show them the steps. Like, you
might get noticed, but even then, So,
well, it's so hard for me. I actually have to make a phone call,
okay.
Darren.
There's no good end to this. The last thing that's being said that's on topic is me monetizing it. They just do it for fun.
Right.
And if they happen to be special or something, they might get noticed. But even then, is me making a statement about amateur musicians not worrying about making any money. Stop creating art. So this is like 10 minutes. So this is, and then we just talk about what we're, doing what we're doing. I was going to be quick time capture of this thing. I was ultimately going to make a tutorial video on of being able to just
watch it. I guess for me, it's always if you're actually there in the class.
All right.
All right. I'm going to sign off.
Yeah, I'll let you go. I'll stop the recording. All right, that's it. That's the whole thing. So let me show all and take a look at what I got. I'm not editing out very much, actually, but big important point here, you can always edit more. One thing I know I'm editing out, so amateur musicians, they're out there doing it for fun, but there's nobody worried about monetizing it. They just do it for fun. That's true. And even now, I'm a musician. I study. Yeah, so I'm going to take out, whoops. Didn't mean to double click that. I'm going to take out, we know we're taking this out. Right? Got it. Okay, cool. And, right.
It's not happened. I mean, it sort of has,
yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. Well, I know I'm taking that out.
Of
that
mechanical music.
Wow, that's great.
Yep. He was alarmed with the rise of recorded music. It will be simply a question of time when the amateur disappears entirely. So, on the good side, that has not happened.
All right. So, actually, for lack of not having an outro on this, which I could totally put one on after the fact, the interview could end right there. So that's what I'm going to do. We're going to have the interview in there. And you can see, and as I've noted before, I've got the original down here to not only reference visually, but I want to go back and listen to it. For some reason, I can. Now I'm going to go through here and listen again and clean up create the edit points. All right. So that's going to be the next tip. So let's zoom in enough to do that here. Let's listen to this one.
On a lot longer because I have to and I'm not going to stay on a lot longer because I have to make a call here, but.
So I'm going to take that section out and I'm going to move all this over like that. So remember, everything's all still grouped together. So I'm going to come back to that edit. Let's get down here to this other one. Yeah, let's listen to this. So yeah, you've got an iPhone there. Oh yeah, that's the beginning. So on this day, all right, so we're just going to delete that, move this down. Get it close. Not perfect. Let's show all. Are there any other edit points? Now you'll notice I moved this purple section down to the left. See, I can move it around like that, right? But this didn't come with it. So it brings up the point of what I wanted to show next. I've only got 2 major edit points, right? All the rest of this content, at least for now, I'm going to keep.
My day. Well, actually, I had a really...
And that creates roughly an 8-minute interview from a 10.5-minute interview, which was not all interview because we were talking about other things at the end there. But anyway.
And, the model and just a lot.
Fun that I get this opportunity to hear you tell me about that because I guess that's all good.
Right.
And
that's great.
Yeah. And he goes, well, I'll do it after we talked for a bit. He says, I'll do it after this. And I go, well, you could have done it already. You just I use the word traditional platforms, but
well, they have to keep finding new models to keep things. any money. And he basically, I wrote it down because I thought it was really interesting. He said Google killed the news industry.
Well, interestingly, books
Amazon
seem to still.
Amazon killed the book industry. But basically, Amazon.
All right. So the reason I'm bothering to listen through this is because what we've got is a hello. This is what, so this is now. I got to frame up the whole interview. I've got an introduction. Welcome to the podcast. I've got a question. How was your day? She answers the day by talking about what happens in class, and in talking about what happened in class, that spawned that's interesting because the thing that she said happened in class today related to something that had happened to me the day before, and so I talked about that, and to which she responded, "Oh, whatever, that makes sense," and another point was made, and then I spoke again, and then she continued on the point about how digital media, the digital world we live in, has killed the analog world, and then we started talking about that, and so that goes on. So now we've got a cohesive string of topics. Well, interestingly, books seem to still, and so there's that major. Yeah, I mean, if video, and then knows where it's going to land, everybody's script. And then so I talk about that a little bit more. We're still talking about it. Mass comm because that's it. I mean, there's just she wraps it up with the point about that's what her class is all about, and then there's just everything's. Yeah, you're right. The paradigm shift. One statement that I made 1,000 times regarding musicians, and maybe they hate it, and then I make a point because I'm a musician about how I've always felt that music business was was created by technology and taken away by technology. It doesn't have anything to do with music. Oh, it's different. It's a massive discussion. And then it's a great conversation, and you always get me going. But John Philip Sousa, the guy that wrote all the music that people play when they're in high school market. That prompts her response about the story about John Philip Sousa, which is great. What did he even mean? And then I'm like, what do you mean by that? Then she clarified. Yeah. I guess that's kind of true. And then in a sense, I mean, in other words, it dawns on me what that really means. Mastering the craft of playing an instrument. So, and I guess John Philip Sousa is correct. Yeah. And that's it. Well, I have to tell you, he called it the menace of mechanical music. Wow, that's great. So there's a quote I'd never heard before. He was alarmed with the rise of recorded music. It will be simply a question of time when the amateur disappears entirely. So, I mean, on the good side, that has not happened. And that's it. That's the end of the interview. I mean, that's it. We've got a movement of conversation. The only reason I would shorten this is if I had a time constraint, in which case I would decide on what sections of this I wanted to remove completely. Like I did for the 3.5 minute I showed in class, I took out all this other stuff. But as far as putting forth an edited version of a complete conversation, this is as good as it gets. And I would tag on my outro music right there and say, thank you so much, Professor Wesman, for joining me today, and yada, yada, yada. That'd be the end of my podcast. That could work. So now we need to clean it up and finish it. What I'm going to do now is go back and perfect these edits from the end back to the beginning for a reason. Remember how I said all of these sections are grouped. So now I need to select all and ungroup them. There. And then I just need to select, select that one and this one and group that one. All right. And then I need to zoom in here. And I need to get this just right. So we're going to get this, we're going to get a little bit of overlap, and it's just her that I'm listening to here. But, always get me going. But, so that's not good. So we're going to go here. Always get me going. But, John Phillips. So that timing's pretty good. Let's try. Always get me going. But, so it's a little abrupt, but the timing feels good. Always get me going. But, John Phillips. That's not bad. Let's go back to then you always get me going. But, John Phillips. Let me move this way a little bit more. And then you always get me going. But, all right, cool. And then you always get me going. But, John. It's a little abrupt, but let's see what happens if I drag this one on top of this one. But, get me going. But, John. There, perfect. Check it out. Station, and you always get me going. But, John Philip Sousa. All right, so now I need to show all. Now I need to select this, command here, and command here, and then I need to group all of those. So now I got all 4 of those. So when I move these around, they all stay together. So now I'm going to go to this edit. Now, if I was doing a lot of edits, I would do this. As I perfected an edit, I would then group the stuff to the right of the edit together so that it would all move together as I work my way from the end back to the beginning of the interview. Remember, I've already cut the stuff out, and I've listened, and I know that I like what I have, but I need to perfect my edits now so they're clean. So that's all this process is, a technical process. So now I'm going to click here and zoom in to this edit point, and I'm going to listen to see what I got. The technology back then. So on this day, that's pretty good, actually. So I just want to move this forward. You can see everything's moving together, and including the regions down at the end. They're coming along for the ride, which is exactly what I want. The technology back then. So on this day, that's pretty good. I'll tighten it up just a little bit, and then crossfade. Now we're like, oh my gosh, look at the technology back then. So on this day, I love it. How was your day? All right. What? So now I can do this. I can select all, then I got to do Command G and there everything's grouped. That's all good, but it's not that important that they're all grouped if I'm not moving them anymore. But it does prevent. See, now everything moves together. It prevents, and even the stuff down below is in the group. I must have got it somehow. And that's good. Now you can visually see this is the original interview. This is what I ended up with. I've listened through. I know the content I have is right. And now the edits are clean. I know we're good. There's one last thing I need to do here in multi-track mode before I bounce this, and that is look at the average volume between the two. Here's my audio up here, and it's quieter. And look at Professor Wesman's audio down here. It's limited and on average, a lot thicker, a lot louder. And that is because she was talking into a MacBook, and the compression in the MacBook, and maybe Zencastr as well, made that audio nice and loud and robust and limited, whereas my recording is done with a audio environment that's like got a nice microphone, a lot of equipment and stuff like that. So just like it's the exact thing I'm using right now. And so it doesn't automatically become all limited and made loud. I get to do that to my audio later, which is great. But what that means is the average volume between mine and hers is quite different. Hers is, on average, a lot louder than mine. And so I need to fix that. And I'm going to do that by simply turning her volume down, and I'm going to do it about 6 dB. I think is about right. There, got it, -6. Now let's just listen. We got to use our ears. Like here's a thick spot of mine. Ask, even if nobody responds. And so then he texts me today. And here's this.
And Mark was like, we really already have it on our radar.
And that's pretty good. You noticed that she's hitting like -9, and I'm only hitting... I asked about the monitor, and I'm bouncing well over that to -7, but on average, we're about the same. So you really got to use your ears for this. I asked.
We really already have it on
stuff. So knowing... All right, so now I'm ready to right-click, mix down session to new file, entire session. And you're going to see that the spiky spots are my voice poking through because my voice wasn't limited, and the flat spots are her voice turned down, and you can see her voice is hitting that -9 line. So I'm going to go ahead and push that to the top. I'm going to use that as my reference. I'm going to go hard limiter. You guys can't see this, but I'm going to go effects, hard limiter. I'm going to, here, I'll bring this in here. I'm going to boost by 9 dB, and I'm going to limit it to -0.1 so it doesn't clip. You could do -0.3, just as long, somewhere in that range so it doesn't clip, pushing by 9 dB because that's where her voice is. I don't want to limit her voice any more than it already is, but I definitely want to limit mine and bring them all up together so it's a nice, cohesive, thick sound. So here we go. And you end up with that. Perfect, right? Now there's still one last thing to do.
They asked great.
And that's the very beginning. I did not do any time editing or fading on the beginning. No big deal, though. Hey, good evening, and it's just right there. So we're just going to take that off and put a little fade on the front of it. Jump to the end. That's just fine there. I'll just put a little fade out on that and listen to the end.
Has not happened.
Boom. Perfect ending. Home. Hey, good evening, and welcome to our podcast, Joan Wesman, Professor Joan Wesman, and the perfect beginning. And now I think all the levels are good for a bit. He said, I'll do it after this. And I go...
And Mark was like, we really already have it on.
And I go, well, you could have done it already. You just
Ask Mark Sappenfield.
I think that sounds great. The two things sound great together. Now, you look through. I'm really all but done. But there is one more technical thing you could do to really make this perfect. You can see there's some gaps in here, and you might even remember hearing those gaps while I was editing this. There's some time lag between the answer to her answers to my questions or her saying something and me responding. There's this unnatural lag. There's nothing wrong with tightening that up, and you can do that here in the balance. It's much easier than bothering to create more edit points in your multi-track recording. Yeah. So and the other thing though, when you do things here, it is destructive. Like once I've done it, it's done. Like if I want to undo it, I can't. So this is why this is something you would do just kind of subjectively right at the end to just add one extra layer of perfection. So here we go.
Perfect way of putting it.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and bring where I want it. I would say, yeah, so I'm going to bring it right here and hit delete. And this side of Audition, the waveform editing side, just closes that gap automatically. And now I can use Command-Z undo if I didn't like what I did, but that's all I got. I can't undo this later once it's saved.
The paradigm shift is a perfect way of putting it.
Yeah, so I'll just make this one. That's perfect. Let's go show all. Look for another gap. There's this gap here.
Anymore.
Wow. What did he? So I'm going to close it up to about right there. I usually use my eyes for this.
Amateurs wouldn't create music anymore.
Wow. That's good. What did he even mean by that? Sounds good to me. And let's see, I don't know, maybe this spot right here.
Doing it.
Yeah. I guess that's kind of true. Nah, I like that. That's fine. There's a natural little pause there. Let's check this spot.
Did what the students think.
That's really cool. That's fun that I get this opportunity. I'm gonna close that up just a little bit, not a lot.
Did what the students think.
That's really cool. Yeah, that sounds natural. So, of course, I'm going to listen back through this one more time, even after it's done, and go anything else I want to do. But I have instantiated enough effort that the high likelihood that this is done and perfect. And so I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you got a lot out of it. I know it was long, but it is thorough. And we will see you in the next tutorial. I'm out.